British Prime Minister Keir Starmer just announced the UK will airdrop aid into Gaza and evacuate Palestinian children for medical treatment, working with Jordan to coordinate the mission. But here's what they won't tell you about the airdrops in Western legacy media. They're fantastic for a photo opportunity and making governments look like they're doing something heroic, floating down from the sky, literally the symbol of hope, literally food, right, for starving people. In reality, they're incredibly inefficient, extremely expensive per kilo of aid delivered, and downright dangerous. Each airdrop delivers maybe 10 to 15 tons of aid compared to the 200 tons of aid a single blocked truck convoy could deliver. And historically, when Israel did not blockade, not stop aid coming through the Rafah border crossing or any other border crossings, 500 aid trucks a day went into Gaza. And that's not counting, construction equipment for rebuilding, because this was before Gaza was flattened by the Israeli airstrikes. We're talking, in this case now, about dropping massive pallets weighing hundreds of kilograms from aircraft. And when parachutes malfunction, these things become deadly missiles. When parachutes work, even then, desperate for aid, people will risk their lives by standing too close or within the drop zone, and then wind and speed may lead to the aid actually crushing people. Now, this isn't theoretical fear-mongering by yours truly. It actually has happened in the past in Gaza. Civilians have lost their lives from being crushed by aid pallets. Aid workers have called airdrops, quote, good photo opportunities but a lousy way to deliver aid, end quote, because opening land crossings would be infinitely more effective and safer. So why is the UK suddenly announcing these missions now? Well, that was the news. Here is the analysis. And bear with me, I've got a very adorable 4-year-old in my lap, and he's not making it easy for me. Baba. Pressure at home is reaching a breaking point in the UK. Just yesterday, 221 members of parliament from 9 different parties representing tens of millions of British citizens for whom they are the elected official sent a joint letter demanding the government immediately recognise Palestine as a state and take action against the Israeli imposed crisis in Gaza, Israeli caused crisis in Gaza. Weekly protests for Gaza have grown louder and louder across British cities, and this idea by opposition, especially Israeli-led opposition, that these protests literally to make sure starving women and children can get food access. The Israeli narrative was, this is supporting the H group, Palestinian resistance, you're all basically sympathizers with what we deem to be terrorists. That's just not something the British public are buying. France's announcement that it will recognize Palestine as a state has left the UK isolated among even European allies, close allies. Right? When Russia, for example, invaded Ukraine, Britain imposed swift sanctions and economic measures. When Israel implements what many experts are now calling genocidal policies in Gaza, though, nothing. Like a tumbleweed in the... No response. In fact, the opposite of no response. The British are still covertly helping, in many cases, with spy planes, for example. Comparing the two, by the way, Russia, Ukraine versus Israel and Israel in Gaza, Israel's actions are far worse than the Russian invasion of Ukraine. A sovereign country versus a sovereign country where you can help the side you support, where you can engage diplomatically if you want. Ukraine has a diplomatic outlet. It is a recognized, internationally recognized country. Whereas here, it's extermination and starvation of civilians by a violent militant government against all but a defenseless, stateless people, the Palestinians. And Britain offers stern words in this case and continues indirect military assistance. Many are wondering, is this really just complicity? But sort of dolled up, flowered up. The spy planes keep flying. F-35 parts from the United Kingdom are still collecting in the Western Pool from which Israel can acquire them. The disconnect, essentially, between the reality in Gaza and the position of the British state is glaring to British voters, and they're just not accepting it. These airdrops aren't about efficiently feeding starving Palestinians. They're about feeding the British public and easing political pressure. By and large, the Brits seem to have smelt that something is off, that something is spoiled, not expired, but tainted with intentions not in alignment with the will of the people. The UK government knows land routes could deliver vastly more aid safely, but that would require confronting Israel about opening crossings, something they don't want to do. Israel is a natural and historical British ally. Israel holds significant sway here, similar to how it holds sway in America through AIPAC. So instead, they choose the British government, choose the expensive, dangerous, publicity-friendly option that lets them appear helpful while what they actually do changes nothing about Gaza's blockade, or does almost nothing. And what Starmer is selling, the public ain't buying. Why am I reporting with this adorable one in my arms? Because it's important news. But family life goes on. For the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, bye-bye. I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one.